Thank you for joining us. The Diversity Challenge demo. We've been doing this for the last few years, and it's an opportunity to the launch of the FTC season. At the kickoff, we have the opportunity given our alumni an opportunity to try to build a robot over a pretty short period of time. They've got other stuff going on, so we don't keep them here locked in overnight. So I'd say they'd probably put in about maybe 15, 16 hours of work total time into the robot. So like I say, this is what they've accomplished in about that time, starting from scratch. So they didn't have a pre-built chassis or anything. They started from scratch and built it up. But it does kind of show you what you can do in a relatively short period of time. So we're going to start by letting them introduce the robot and just kind of tell us the features. And obviously, in this amount of time, the expectation would not be to accomplish everything on the field. It's mostly to be motivational, hopefully, for the people watching, that they can see what's possible and say, hey, there's some things that if they get done in 16 hours, there's some things we probably could do in the competition this year, even though the challenge may look difficult when you first look at it. So let's get started. I think today we have Nanami and we have Georgia with us, and Georgia's holding the robot. So who's going to do the talking?
I'm nominated to talk. That's good.
I volunteer you as tribute.
I've already been volunteered as tribute by my team. So this is our robot. What's the name? Which one, Chris? Robot's name, Mediocrities. So this robot was built in about 15 to 16 hours. So the basis of the robot is to have a relatively short robot with an arm that's allowed to interact with the backdrop. The reason we have a short robot is so we're able to get under the trusses here without having to have too tall of a robot that needs to be able to push the stage door. So the key features is that it has the rear wheel drive with the basic wheels in a Rev V3 kit, has the battery mounted to the underside of the robot here, and the control hub over here to the side. Have a total of 4 motors, have 2 motors to the back, and, well, I guess we have 3 motors. I was thinking of the original arm motor. We originally had a separate section of the arm, but that was removed due to time constraints, and that arm was not working as well as we had hoped. So we have this third motor here to raise the arm up to interact with the backdrop. Inside, at the very end of the arm, is a claw. The claw design originally started as the base claw, but now is based on, so it's like a pin. So it centers on the center of the pixel and opens to grab the pixel. Yeah, so we're gonna swap hands here. So you're gonna hold the robot. And Georgia here is going to demonstrate that it opens up and it holds the pixel from the inside. And it raises up and closes the claw to drop the pixel into the backdrop. The other servo on a robot, if you can turn the robot this way, the other servo is holding the drone launcher. This is a later development. The drone launcher is not capable of launching into the scoring areas at the moment. I'm not going to launch the drone here because it takes a bit to set up, but you can imagine that the servo here has a linear servo horn, and that when it moves forward, it lets go of the rubber band that shoots the drone from the top. So the idea is that to have the arm raised up, and then it shoots the drone out from the top. This one's kind of mixed in terms of if it's actually going to be able to fire into the zones, but it will be able to fire the drone, just may not be able to score.
If it doesn't accidentally fire too soon.
Or if it doesn't fall out. It doesn't fire too soon, doesn't fall out, yes. And here in my hand is the prop. This is used to detect the correct zone. We do not have an autonomous that's able to detect this correctly because computer vision is hard, especially in 16 hours. That is not exactly easy to do. So this would be in place of the white pixel on the ground during autonomous. Have any questions?
Yeah. I was just going to point out, so since you mentioned that, it's worth noting that the software and the SDK and stuff that's coming out now, I think eventually is going to have that TensorFlow in there that probably will be able to identify the white pixel. Now, if a team wants to do the prop, right, they're going to have to then do the training to train it in TensorFlow to be able to recognize that prop. Although there'd be other options too, right? If you use the color sensor or something, or a camera, like you could, in this case, you made your prop a certain color and even a certain pattern. But so there'd be other ways to try to trigger that.
So the intent on using the prop here is to detect the zone using a camera, using left, center, right to determine which zone it will be based on the color. So if it's like a blue spot in left, that means it's left zone. Or if it's red in like the right zone, that means it's going to be a right side. But yeah, due to constraints of normal C right now, without the update to the SDK, that was scrapped in lieu of time.
Yeah, I think the good news, like say for our rookie teams, is I think there at least will be some functionality that's built in terms of being able to read the April tags and also probably identify objects such as game objects like the white pixel. So too tiny. Okay. Yeah. So, but hopefully, like I said, there'll be some methods that they'll be able to use. Yeah, with some methods they could use to potentially then be able to participate in that part of the game as well. So you mentioned it was low. One thing that was interesting, I thought, was putting the battery on the underside. So, like say, typically you wouldn't do that just from a safety, standpoint. Not even necessarily safety, I guess, general safety, but just safety of your robot not breaking down in the middle of the match. But what's interesting about this field, different from some of the fields that we've had recently, is that there's really nothing you have to go over. There's no obstacle you have to go over. So the undercarriage of the robot is a little safer in that sense. So yeah, was that one of the considerations you thought about?
We did put the battery underneath for space reasons because we had a fairly narrow robot to be able to fit under the trusses. But also, yes, having the battery at the bottom is helpful, especially when we had an earlier iteration of the arm, which had 2 stages, and we needed to have the weight at the bottom so it didn't flip into the oblivion because the arm just takes out the robot because of the high center of gravity. So yeah, it was just kind of a keepsake from the older version, and it does help with keeping the robot from flipping over without the need of like a wheelie bar in the back.
Okay, well, looks good. So maybe I thought what we could do is, if you don't mind, we'll set it down and just kind of, like you demonstrated a moment ago, just manually with the pixel, but just kind of without the match clock starting, just kind of maybe show what it can do. And then, like I say, maybe we'll try running a match and see how that goes, just to see how much you can accomplish in the 2.5 minute time. But yeah, let's just maybe just that way we can kind of zoom in and focus on it and kind of see how it actually operates. I love the name. Yes, I'd forgotten that Greek philosopher, Mediocrities. Yeah, so we'll just do teleop first. So you can see, obviously, they have the arm that can go up and down. So this takes a fair amount of precision because there's not a lot of space there inside the middle. But like I said, they activate that servo, and they're able to grab the pixel. Oh, yeah. So at a mid operational wire disconnect. Of course, that's one of the issues when you're building the robot in a very short period of time. You may not spend as much time on wire management as you would if you're building your competition robot. And so like they're showing here, they had gotten into teleop mode, like we talked about, I think, at the kickoff yesterday. Those white pixels that start on the field basically become game elements once you're past the autonomous period. The anticipation is that you can pick them up and use them just like you would any of the other elements. You can see how easily this very low robot is able to go underneath the truss, no problem at all. Oh no, they're controlling 3 pixels. Wow, so we discussed that yesterday. You can only control 2 pixels at a time. Well, it's somewhat impressive that you were actually able to get 3. I didn't think the little arms on there were long enough to get through 3 of them, but so this is interesting. Yeah, they actually, I don't think they kind of planned for having 1 at a time and end up getting 2. Okay. And then as you guys took the airplane off, so that's pretty hard to set up then in terms of kind of getting it set just right. Is that kind of what you found? Yeah, so they put it on a servo and basically just have the servo rotate to release the rubber band. But Nanami was just saying if they had used a linear actuator to, in essence, pull back and release the rubber band, that might be a smoother motion. Probably also too would allow you potentially, like even especially the Rev already kind of has that slot in there, right? To use that as a launching channel, right? So to kind of straighten out the plane when you fire it. Okay, well, we'll have you put one more on, then we'll give you guys a moment to reset. And then I think we're going to have to get one of your team members to be the human player so that you can use some other colored pixels too. Okay, that looks good. I'll give you guys a moment to try to reset that and get the robot ready, and then we'll try to see if we can start the clock and see how much they could accomplish in a 2.5 minute period with the robot that you see now. So clearly setting up in this period of time is not easy to do. So obviously in the 16 hours they had to take time to strategize a bit, and then of course start building. And then because they had multiple things they were working on, there were 4 of them, so they kind of divided up a little bit of the workload and focused on different aspects. So they had one person focusing on the drone and the launching mechanism for the drone, another person working on the programming part of it, person working on the chassis. And so I think that really shows, even if you're a team that's a larger team and has multiple team members, it's an opportunity for you to be able to give everyone a role, either by themselves or working in pairs, and kind of splitting up the various tasks that you're trying to accomplish once you've kind of decided what you think your best strategy is, what your overall robot's going to look like, and you're building that chassis and then trying to design and build some of those subsystems and do some prototyping. And of course, like they talked about, they tried certain things. Maybe they weren't able to finish in this period of time, but at least they had kind of a plan. So even including the arm, they tried something out, didn't like the way it was working, and then revised that.
We originally had an arm that was 2 stages. So I had one extrusion, the second extrusion, so I was to go further. But that proved very top heavy, so we scrapped the idea altogether.
Yeah, well, especially I think you're looking at both the track and the wheelbase of your robot, so front to back and even side to side. As you say, if you start putting an arm up, even a very skinny arm up, but especially if it's 2 stages and has another motor up there, it's going to get pretty heavy pretty fast. So that's another consideration. Rev, a little bit helpful, I guess, with their Core Hex motors. At least those aren't as heavy as some of the other motors I think you'll see out there. It's a little bit smaller, so that potentially is a plus. But yeah, anytime you put, as you say, something as a lever arm far away from the robot and up high, and then once it gets off center, I guess, from the space right above the robot, I think you are going to start to see some tipping. Okay, you guys look like you're ready to go. Does that sound about right? Okay, we'll make sure Henry's ready to start our clock. And they're reminding Christian, their human player, that yes, it's 2 at a time, so don't just dump them all in. That's right. Although, based on what we see, if they could actually take them all over, that'd be pretty impressive. But I think, yeah, 2 at a time. Okay, Henry says he's ready. So do you want to give you a countdown, Henry? Is that okay? Okay, so I'll give a brief countdown. Since we don't have the official software, scorekeeping software hasn't been released yet for this season, he's going to do it manually with a little clock we have. We'll go ahead and stop it at 30 seconds in and pause it because we don't have the 8 seconds built in that the scorekeeping software does. So we'll give them the 8 seconds to turn around as they switch from autonomous over to teleop. And again, for rookie teams watching this, that is how the match runs. So like I say, we'll start off with 30 seconds of autonomous, give a little 8-second break, and then we'll play the remaining 2 minutes after that. Also warning them when they get to 30 seconds so they know when end game is and they're able to launch their drone. And I'll just stand right here so they can try to hit me and give them a target. I'm standing in zone 1. If I'm safe, that's not a good... Okay. All right. So we'll give this a try. You guys are ready? Right? In 3, 2, 1, go. Okay. So the robot is off. So that was obviously the autonomous part right there. And so again, not recognizing quite yet where the prop is, and not attempting in autonomous to put it up on the backdrop yet, but going for points that they can achieve, which is the parking And so, like I say, it kind of again shows what even rookie teams can do as a starting point for trying to get some points in autonomous. Okay, and that's the end of autonomous. And so we're going to pause here. I wasn't starting counting, but let's say it's approximately on 8 seconds. You guys ready? In 3, 2, 1, go. So at this point now they're controlling their robot remotely. Oh no, drone. Drone is not hanging in there. But they were able to place the yellow pixel. Oh no, now the drone's going to get trampled. Well, that's just kind of insult to injury right there. Like I said, now they've gone over to their wing, where Chris has laid out 2 sets of 2 pixels. There we go. Okay, well, that's the strategy too. So one thing that George was just commenting on, which I think is important, so because the wings are diagonally across the field from the drive stations, that is a bit of a challenge to be able to see, where in this case their grabbing device, right, to be able to put it through the center of the pixel and pick it up. That actually was difficult for her because of the distance and the angle and having to look through the truss and so forth. For all those reasons, it's going to be a bit of a challenge to look over and see. And so whether it's oh, wow, that was right in the center. That came down perfectly. That was pretty good. But yeah, that's definitely going to be a challenge. Small pixels, small target area. Whether you pick the pixels up from the outside or the inside, probably going to be a challenge to target that when you're all the way across the field because it's not a large object. So it looks like here they might be on their way to making. Yeah, look at that. I want to say mosaic, but then I was running. Yeah, I don't think that's the 30 seconds remaining. So that would be the end game has started. Unfortunately, the drone took the tumble. So I think at this point their strategy would be try to get another pixel and or try to park at the end, which is another way they can score some points. So they can get another board. Nope. And it didn't quite make it. Oh, that's pretty good though. So like I say, I was just trying to think to myself what we discussed yesterday. So I think it still counts as a mosaic because they haven't broken it with anything else. The white was only necessary to separate 2 mosaics, but I think just by itself it's okay. And then you probably couldn't hear them, but as they were driving back over, it said, well, if you're going to put the other pixel on, make sure it's not touching the mosaic that they already created, the set of 3, right? So they wanted to make sure it was at a different spot on that backdrop. So yeah, maybe we'll take a break from it. Maybe just without playing the match, could you just demonstrate what the drone would look like, forgetting about having to do it under time pressures and having the drone drive around? So at least or having the robot drive around, so we can at least see what the launching of the paper airplane might look like, with the understanding that you're not working quite as well as you'd like. So you can kind of see, I don't know if Henry can zoom in on that or not, but you can kind of see what they've got going on there. They've basically just taken a rubber band, right? They've got a fixed point in the front there. They put the rubber band around that. On the back end of the drone, you can, block. Yeah, you could, yeah. You can drive over here temporarily maybe. Yeah, so in the backside there, they've got a servo. And all they're doing is just rotating that servo. They're just rotating that servo as a means to release the rubber band and allow the drone to go. Oh no! Okay, that was low, but yeah. So I think the issue here is it's kind of like they were saying before without the linear actuator. Probably because that servo is turning, you don't necessarily get the kind of snap release that you would like if you were shooting rubber bands at your little brother or something like that.
Something we also noticed is that rubber bands don't really work that well for the paper. We had to reinforce it with tape a bunch. We have a bunch of paper airplanes in the back that are just absolutely crunched because the rubber band kept ripping them, smacking them, like it just destroys them. So we thought about maybe flywheels, but we don't have the space for the motors and the wheels, and also you'd probably want to use rubbery wheels instead of the plastic ones that come in the kits. That way it's a little bit smoother of a ride across.
Right. So you'd want probably some grippy wheels, probably some compliant wheels, at least to some degree, right, to get a really tight squeeze. And then in addition to that, so what they were saying is basically you can use flywheels, as they're saying, much like a pitching machine might be, right, where the ball's between two different wheels that are spinning in opposite directions, basically kind of flicks it out. You could do the same thing with the paper airplane. Of course, I think the other side of that is it'd be a larger mechanism, so you're adding more bulk and potentially a little more weight to do something like that just for the launching of the drone. So that's one thing to consider as well. There's also some physical things that could have changed. So obviously, if you'd folded the paper maybe over multiple times, made it a little smaller, it might have toughened up certain areas. That is going to be a challenge, though, when what they're telling you is that you're only wow, that was painful. I'm glad that wasn't an actual rocket launcher. But so that the other challenge is going to be, if you can only build a paper airplane out of paper, you can't put any tape or weight on it, you can't put a paper clip on it or whatever else. Trying to find something that's sturdy enough, right? Even with the flywheel, something that's sturdy enough that you're not going to destroy the object itself in the process of trying to launch it. That's going to be part of that challenge. Okay. Is there anything else you guys like to show us today? Looks good? No? Okay. Well, we're very grateful. What part? Yeah. We're very grateful that we had so many people come out and help us out with the University Challenge. And like I say, we try to do this every year. It's something that we're hoping is a means not only for some of our first alumni to have some fun and kind of relive the memories of their participation in FIRST, but also to have an opportunity to kind of show you what can be done. Again, I didn't say at the beginning, but I want to note too, one of the rules we kind of use on the University Challenge is that they have to use a basic kit, much like a rookie team would have, right? So they're not using any other parts they get off the internet or things that they either purchased or designed. They're using only that basic kit of parts, and so that's another restriction in addition to the time. To see what they could come up with. Hopefully it's motivational then and inspirational for some of the other teams to say they can get started, start building their robot, and there are certain things that they'll be able to do by the scrimmage or by the first league meet that would allow them to score some points and participate in the match. So anyway, thank you for joining us today. We certainly appreciate it. And again, thank you to our University Challenge participants. And we hope to see you at an event very soon. We have some workshops coming up. And then, of course, there's the scrimmage on October 28th. So teams start getting ready, and we'll see you at an event.